Hey there. If you have been listening to this podcast for a hot minute, I owe you an apology because you've been consistent. I, on the other hand, have been extremely inconsistent. I have changed formats, topics, platforms, and personalities the way that Rihanna changes wigs. Some of you are probably wondering what is even going on over there. And honestly, I ask myself the same thing every single day. Here's an announcement. First off, the podcast has a new name. I'm going to officially retire the afterwards as the podcast title. Not forever, the podcast is still going to be the whole grief project. It will still hold everything sacred, all the Kingston stuff, the heavy, beautiful, and the impossible, and probably the book title. But this podcast, that's not just about grief. This story right here is my actual life. It's that relatable chaos, the losses, the signs, the spiritual awakening I never applied for, the really bad decisions, and those embarrassing moments that should have killed me, but instead turned me into some sort of content. So welcome to Honestly, I'm Fine. I say I'm fine the way Kevin Hart says, let me explain. Confident, convincing, but also a complete and total lie. This is where I'm going to word vomit my life because there's just too much of it to keep it inside. If I tried to shove all of that shit down, I'm going to need a therapist, a priest, a shaman, and at least 2 prescriptions that insurance will for sure refuse to cover. So if you've ever bought self-help books and used them as coasters, you are in the right place, my friends. If you have ever said, I'm fine while crying in the shower and shaving one leg, welcome home. If you have ever ugly cried in the school parking lot while eating carbs like it was communion, just know you belong here and you have found your people. I'm not a guru. I'm not a medium. Well, maybe on Tuesdays. I'm not an influencer. Debatable. I'm just a mom who has lived through some serious hell, raised a miracle child, lost a miracle child, and still somehow wakes up believing that there might just be more to this life than what we can see. Everyone thinks that my story starts with grief. I'll tell you what, it doesn't. The grief was the finale. Before the breakdowns were several other breakdowns, micro traumas, tiny little earthquakes that cracked the foundation while I was busy telling everyone I'm fine. So before I talk about angels or signs or spiritual awakenings, we need to back up. Not all the way to the cradle because nobody needs to picture me as a newborn with a pacifier and anxiety. We're not doing a baby Jesus origin story. We are going to go back to where the cracks started, those moments that built the girl who would one day break. Because the truth is this, I did not plan for any of this. I didn't plan the boy I had a baby with at 20. I didn't plan the other one that I've never stopped loving. I didn't plan the husband that I married in less than 6 weeks. I didn't plan any of the miracles, and I for sure did not plan on a single bit of the heartbreak. I thought that I was building a perfect life. What I was really doing was creating the story that I would eventually have to tell. Because God looked at my Pinterest board and said, that is so cute, but no, watch this. If you've ever looked at your life and thought, how the fuck did I get here? You are in the right place. Pull up a chair, grab a snack, preferably something with carbs and zero shame. I go for Big Macs. Let's laugh, let's cry, and let's unpack this shit together. I'm Miley Navarro. Welcome to Honestly, I'm Fine. All right, I was 8 years old. I was an age where your biggest concern should be which Lisa Frank folder you're bringing to school, not whether or not your family tree has a missing branch. I still believed that adults were smart, safe, and knew what they were doing. That belief died on a Tuesday. I came home from school and something felt weird. The air was super quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you wonder if the house is about to confess to its own kind of crime. My mom was sitting on the couch, her hands were all twisted together, totally not relaxed, not casual at all. She was sitting like a woman who was about to tell her child, surprise, your entire identity is incorrect. I sat down across from her. I still had my backpack on, like shoes still on, like I was just stopping in before being adopted by someone else. She took this big, deep breath, and I just remember her looking at me and being like, there's something I need to tell you. Every child knows that is a horror movie line. Nothing good follows that sentence. Puppies do not follow that sentence. Ice cream does not follow that sentence. The only thing that comes after there's something I need to tell you is trauma. And then she hit me with it. Your dad is not your real dad. Now, imagine being 8 years old, hearing that, and trying to keep your face still because you are a child, but also somehow responsible for everyone else's emotions. Imagine your brain glitching like a dial-up internet, just buffering in silence while your mom casually deletes your father like an actual typo. She kept talking about a man named Tim, about how he drank, about he hit her one time, about how she left to protect us. But none of that landed. My brain was stuck on one thought. Hold on. If my dad is not my dad, then who the hell have I been calling dad this whole time? Was there a recall? Is there a warranty? Can you exchange fathers at Target, or is this a customer service fuck up thing? The worst part is, I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't ask one single question. I just stared at the ugly carpet like I was waiting for it to explain my entire life back to me. And that was the first time I did what I would spend the rest of my life doing. I pretended to be fine. I just keep saying that over and over, like, what 8-year-old knows to just pretend to be fine in that situation? But then you think about it a little bit more, and what else would an 8-year-old do? And here's the sick part. My mom was relieved. I think that she thought that the quiet meant that I was handling it well. I don't think that she realized at all that the silence was just my nervous system playing dead. A few days later, she picked me up from school in her old gray blue Oldsmobile. And if you're too young to remember what an Oldsmobile is, imagine a car that just looks tired. That car has just given up, and it's a car that smells like the ghosts of Marlboro lights and expired perfume. I'm pretty sure that my little brother was in the back seat with me. I'm sure he had exactly zero idea what was going on. He just sat there swinging his legs, living his best snack life, super excited to go pick up a Happy Meal. I climbed in the seat and I buckled my seatbelt and I looked down, and that's it. I did not look up, not one time. Not at my mom, not at the road, not even out the window. I definitely did not look at the stranger sitting in the front seat of that car. I remember the fabric so clearly on the doors. It was velvety, like someone had glued a cheap couch to the inside of the sedan. I would trace circles onto that fabric the entire drive because if I looked up, the reality of what was happening might actually become real. And we pulled into McDonald's. But it wasn't just any McDonald's. We pulled into the Burien McDonald's. Now, if you don't know Burien, Washington, I want you to imagine a small town where dreams go to smoke cigarettes in a parking lot next to a Blockbuster. It's about 10 minutes from the SeaTac airport, which means that every 30 seconds, a plane flies over and the ground shakes like God is slamming the doors upstairs. This McDonald's wasn't fancy. Nobody rich chooses Burien. They accidentally end up there, look around and go, ah, hell, and then they're stuck there forever. That building sat between a gas station where someone was always screaming and the pawn shop where people sold the last thing that they should keep. But to me, at 8 years old, this was like Disneyland because it had a great play structure. The one with the wall-controlled merry-go-round that spun if you cranked a metal wheel like your life depended on it, and the Hamburglar tower that you could climb all the way up to the top. It was easily 5 or 6 feet tall, which is basically skyscraper height when you are short and emotionally exhausted. So I did what any child in deep denial would do. I bolted and I climbed straight to the top of that Hamburglar tower so fast that you would think it was an actual evacuation plan for somebody evacuating a real natural disaster. I tucked my little tiny self inside with my knees to my chest, my long brown hair hanging down to my butt. I brushed it in front of my face, covering like a built-in witness protection program. From down below, I could hear voices, my mom and him, my supposed biological father, both of them trying to talk to me through this giant metal hamburger like we were in a hostage negotiation situation. He said, "Hi, Miley." I didn't answer because I was suddenly a monk, silent, devoted to God or trauma, whichever one was going to be in charge that day. I sat up there so long that my legs fell asleep and my emotional support system was a sweaty plastic dome filled with the smell of feet, warm french fries, and urine. Eventually, my mom called me down for ice cream. And that's when I walked over to a table, sat down, still staring at the ground, but I looked up and I reached for the cone. I realized that the hand holding it wasn't hers, it was his. There was a stranger feeding me soft serve on my birthday like we were in the saddest Hallmark movie ever written. We locked eyes. Nothing. No connection, no spark, no daddy moment, just confusion and melting dairy. I took the cone, I mumbled thanks, and started eating. That was our bonding experience, the first time I had met my father. Just two extremely awkward human beings, one traumatized child, and an ice cream cone slowly dying in the sun. Just when you think the plot is over, the universe releases another episode without your freaking consent. So the McDonald's scene came and went, and here's what people never tell you about trauma. It does not always look cinematic. There's no emotional, slow-motion hug. Sometimes trauma just looks like a quiet kid eating a sad melting ice cream cone while pretending that the world is a-okay. But time went on, and there were more moments here and there where I guess I warmed up because I remember being at his house. Not often, definitely not consistent, but enough for a memory to stick. There was a cassette. It was Michael Jackson Bad, and I played that thing like the world depended on it. I must have played it so much that the cassette begged for mercy because I would dance in the middle of his living room like I was auditioning to be the fifth member of the Jackson family. Forget Billie Jean. I was Miley Jean. I just remember spinning and laughing, jumping on the couch, hair flying everywhere. And maybe this is what having a biological father felt like. I don't know, music, movement, a room that felt almost recognizable. And here's what's wild. I really don't remember a single conversation that I had with him, literally not one. I couldn't tell you his favorite food, his favorite color. I don't even know his birthday. I don't even remember the sound of his voice, but I absolutely remember that cassette tape and dancing in that room. I remember that song, and I remember that for 3 minutes and 49 seconds, I felt okay. There were other things too: aunts, uncles, grandparents that I never knew existed, a whole bonus family that came with the man who made me. They were kind enough, I guess. I mean, some of them even follow me on Facebook today. I think they watch the whole move me of my life, but do not speak. They're like a ghost audience, kind of sitting in the dark in the background. I think I'm actually named after my aunt, but no one's ever really confirmed it. Honestly, I could be named after a dog for all I know. Communication was clearly not the strong suit of that family. But then there came this big plot twist. Somewhere, I don't know, I think around 8th or ninth grade, it was a Mariners game. 1994, 1995. It was the year that they were doing so well, and probably the closest that we ever got to the World Series up until this year. He had asked to take me. Like, this was my Super Bowl, my emotional comeback tour. This was going to be the moment where fatherhood kicked in for this guy. I got ready like I was meeting royalty. I had my Mariners hoodie, my matching hat. I had a yellow Walkman around my neck because nothing screams hope like a cassette player you have to smack to get working. I sat on the couch in my apartment waiting. It was 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5. Every car that drove by, I stared out the window like a golden retriever waiting for its owner. By 7:05, the game had clearly started. Daylight was gone, and he didn't show up. The phone rang. My mom answered. Her voice was soft, too soft. You know, the voice adults use when they know that they're about to break your heart a little bit. When she hung up, she said the words I already knew were coming. He's not coming. And that was that. No drama, no tears, just a quiet, tiny piece of me evaporating. I didn't say why. I didn't say I hate him. I just said, next time tell him no thanks. Because that was the night that I learned the truth. That if you do not expect people to show up, that they cannot disappoint you. That is the night that I became independent. Not when I paid bills, not when I moved out, not when I became a mom. I became independent at 14 years old, sitting in a Mariners outfit that nobody ever saw while a game played on TV without me. And years passed by after that. I grew up, sort of. You know, I did the teenage years, just a bunch of trauma with really bad lip gloss and terrible haircuts. When I was 19 and pregnant with my first son, I heard that my bio dad was in the hospital, throat cancer. They were removing his voice box. So, being a good person, I went to go see him. Because stupid me, some tiny part of me believed that this could still be some sort of happy movie ending. Maybe we get this reunion scene. Maybe he says he's always loved me. Anything. His father, my grandfather, was actually sitting in the waiting room at the hospital. He looked at me and said, I think you'll be happy to see you. That's it. Nobody hugged me. Nobody asked how I was. Nobody treated me like family. I was 7 months pregnant. Nobody asked any questions. I was a visitor. They let me go in his room. He was unconscious, machines everywhere, beeping, breathing, sterile and cold. He opened his eyes, saw me, panicked a little. I don't know if it was out of fear, shock, or confusion, but the nurses asked me to step out. That was our second reunion. The door closing, a hallway, silence. A few months later, I was at work at the Bellevue Square Mall, folding jeans at the Gap. Glamorous life that it was. The store phone rang, and my coworker answered. She looked at me and said, oh my God, Ryan's pranking you. Sounds like he's playing the robot again. That was my bestie at work, you know? But it was not a prank. It was actually my bio dad. He was talking through a machine because the throat cancer had taken his voice. He said in that flat electronic tone that he wanted to meet my baby when he was born, and I said no, not out of anger. It wasn't out of vengeance. I said no because I just wasn't going to let my child ever sit on a couch wearing a Mariners hoodie, waiting for a man that was never coming. And that was it. That was the last time we ever spoke. I don't remember his real voice. I don't know his favorite food. I don't even know his birthday. I don't know who he was as a person at all. But I know exactly what he looked like. Why? Because I look just like him. His face, but with better eyebrows. It's the universe's favorite joke. God said, you do not get the father, but you get the face. Congratulations, kid. So now for 2 seconds, let's just talk about the dad who actually raised me, the man who did the work. Because he adopted me, fed me, picked me up when I cried, and survived my teenage years without committing a felony. People hear adoption and imagine it like a Disney movie. Soft lighting, hugs, forehead kisses, father-daughter dances. And not really. My dad loved me in a way that was emotionally minimal. The basics: a nod across the living room, occasional pat on the shoulder like a golden retriever who brought back a tennis ball. As a kid, I didn't know the difference. There was no questioning whether or not he was allergic to showing affection. I didn't ask, does saying I love you cause internal bleeding? Does he need a doctor's note to hug his own kid? None of those things crossed my mind until I was a much older adult. As an adult, though, I start to get it. My dad lost his dad at a very young age. He was raised by stepfathers who treated parenting like a sport that you could get arrested for. His childhood taught him that emotions were dangerous and that love was something you survived, not expressed physically. And so he loved the only way he knew how. He showed up to school plays and dance recitals where I looked like a confused ferret in sequins. He kept food in the fridge, the gas in the car, a roof over our head. He fixed things, he built things, and he worked his ass off so that I could have a life. He did not say I love you very often, but he did love me. Not with hugs, but with errands. Not with speeches, but with action. Love language, Home Depot. Here's the punchline. My biological father gave me DNA and trauma, but my adopted father, he gave me everything else. Here is where we get to the fun part. And by fun, I mean the part where my therapist gets paid the big bucks to interpret my childhood like it's a crime scene. Learning that my dad was not my real dad did not just change my family tree. It rewired my entire internal operating system. Psychologically, a father is supposed to teach you what love looks like from a man. Think about it. As a little girl, your father is your first love. It is the first love that you ever experience from a man. Security, stability, protection, boundaries, affection. He taught me something else. Mine taught me that men can walk away and never look back, and that's okay. Mine taught me that you can share DNA with someone who treats you like a tax deduction, and that's okay. Mine taught me that if you do not get your hopes up, that they cannot be shattered like a piñata at a kid's birthday party, and you should be okay with that. Imagine being just 10 years old and realizing that the one man in the world who was genetically obligated to love you had clocked out before his shift even started. So what did I learn? I learned to choose men who were emotionally unavailable because I thought that that was normal. I thought that love was supposed to feel like a group project where I did all of the work and the guy still got the credit. I have spent my entire life gravitating towards men who needed saving, fixing, or translating from caveman noises into actual human words. And every single time my brain was like, oh my God, yes, this is love. It's perfect. I know this. It feels familiar. This feels like home. Because here is the psychological kicker. When you do not get the love that you need, you chase the kind that you recognize. And I only recognized abandonment like a trained sniffer dog. If you show me a nice guy who texts me back and has emotional availability, my body shuts down faster than a Windows 95 computer. If you are damaged, confusing, distant, or slightly emotionally feral, my nervous system wakes up like, hello, trauma, is that you? Come on in, ruin my life. Dr. John Bowlby? I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Dr. John Bowlby. Attachment theory? Am I saying that right? I don't know. But translation, you marry your dad's unfinished business. AKA, you spend your 20s dating men with the emotional maturity of a baked potato and call it romance. So yes, I became independent early. I handled my own emotions. I took care of myself in the only ways that I knew how. I built walls so high that you needed TSA clearance to approach my heart. Here is what no one will tell you. When you learn to survive without love, you forget how to accept it. So that little girl sitting at the McDonald's that day with her melted ice cream learned exactly two things. 1, do not wait for people. And 2, never let them see you need them. And those lessons turned into my adult dating resume. Cheated on? Fine. Ignored? Perfect. Emotionally unavailable? Yes, please. But do not hug me because that feels illegal. It's funny now, but back then it was survival. Because once abandonment trains you, you start living like a human smoke alarm. Even when nothing is on fire, you beep. You become the girl who overachieves, overexplains, overcompensates, is always sorry. Hello, I'm sorry for existing. Hi, I brought snacks for everyone. Please love me. Hi, I will bleed emotionally but still ask you if you are okay. And the shitty part, you believe that you are really the problem. But I was just a kid trying to make sense of adults who had no idea what they were doing. So yes, before heartbreak found me, Abandonment had trained me. Before grief ever hit me, rejection taught me how to stand perfectly still so that nobody could see me crack. And yet, somehow, against all odds, stupid me, I still believe in love. After all of that psychological conditioning, I still went out and found love. More than once. It turns out that trauma does not stop you from dating, it just makes you choose men like expired produce. You pick the ones that look fine from a distance, and then they rot in your kitchen and ruin your life. I married a man who was basically a real life reboot of my biological father, emotionally distant, unpredictable, void of affection, attracted to nonsense, raised his voice more than he raised our children. It was as if my subconscious looked at him and said, "Dad, is that you? Well, this feels unsafe and disappointing. Come on in. Take my hand, stranger. Let's ruin my self esteem together." Here's the other thing. You don't marry your type, you literally marry your trauma. I was out here recreating my childhood like a Broadway revival. Same storyline, new cast, worse reviews. To make it even better, I fell in love with the one I can't shake. I'm still in love with the one who got away and the one I will probably love until I literally turn to ash. Yesterday, I cried about him in my car like I was auditioning for a music video. Rain on the windshield, silence, me whispering to the universe, "Please come back and let me love you, you inconvenient son of a bitch." The universe probably watched that scene like, "Girl, this is not the Grammy category you're aiming for." And look, I'm spiritually mature enough to know that if he is my twin flame, soulmate, karmic contract, or whatever TikTok witches are calling it now, fine, cool. I'll wait. But also, respectfully, sir, if we really have some cosmic contract that we signed in heaven before birth, can you please hurry up, read the fine print, and get your shit together before I reincarnate without you? Trauma is a comedian, and it will hand you abandonment issues and then give you one perfect person that you can never have. And what do? Do I move on like a healthy adult? No. I spiral into fantasy where he knocks on my door and I answer in slow motion with good lighting and perfect hair, and he says, "I made a mistake. I've always loved you." And I'm like, "Took you long enough, and hand me my chapstick." The reality? I fall in love with men like they are rescue dogs that no one else wants. I see a red flag and my brain goes, "Ah, poor thing, come here and let me fix you." But even with all of that, I know this. My heart is very much still open. It has been cracked, broken, stomped on, set on fire, rolled in glitter, but still open. I should be bitter, but I'm not. I should hate love, but I don't. Because some part of me still believes that the right person is going to show up and stay. Maybe it is him. Maybe it is someone new. Maybe it is someone who can communicate his feelings with more than emojis and grunts. I don't know, but I'm sticking it out. Abandonment doesn't kill all hope. It will definitely make standards very confusing. If I do ever get married again, I just want my future husband to know something very important. Congratulations. You beat out the trauma, you outlasted the ghost of my biological father, and the disappointing reboot that I accidentally married. And the one who got away, who was probably still spiritually dragging his feet on our cosmic twin flame paperwork. You, sir, are the emotional Olympics gold medalist. Enjoy the prize, me, carbs, and a lifetime supply of sarcasm. So that is episode 1. Was it therapeutic? No. Was it cheaper than therapy? Absolutely. I'm Miley Navarro, and honestly, I'm fine. Which is hilarious because I'm clearly not. Check out show notes for my socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe. Send to your group chat of other emotionally unstable friends, whatever you people do to make someone go viral. Help me monetize the misery. Until next time, I'm fine.